I first met Evelyn under the wide chestnut tree that stood at the edge of our town's library garden. I had gone there to read my usual escape from the noise of our crumbling-to-ruin apartment. The world between pages made my poverty feel irrelevant. But that day, the story wasn't in a book. It sat beside me with a curious smile and eyes like spring rain. "I love that one," she said, pointing at the worn-out book in my hand. Pride and Prejudice. I looked up, startled. "You've read it?" She smiled and sat beside me without asking. Twice. And both times, I still wanted Darcy to speak sooner. We talked for hours that day about books, music, the stars. I learned her name was Evelyn Hart. Her family lived near the old manor on Hillridge Lane. That should have told me everything. But when you're 19 and someone like Evelyn notices you, you don't think in warnings. You think in hopes. She came again the next day, and the next. And soon, the library garden became ours. Evelyn was a mystery wrapped in warmth. She made the world brighter, always laughing, always holding my hand like it was something precious. I was the son of a mechanic. My clothes were second-hand, my shoes worn. But she never seemed to mind. When it rained, she would run through the puddles barefoot, pulling me along like a child. We'd kiss under the old tree, her fingers tracing the side of my face as if memorizing a moment. She once said, "You make me feel more than anyone ever has." And I believed her. There were nights we'd sneak out and lie beneath the stars near the lake, her head on my chest, my heartbeat playing rhythm to our silence. She told me her parents didn't know about me. I thought it was because she was protecting us, but maybe she was protecting her world from mine. It was at Marlin's Diner where I first saw the shift. Evelyn walked in with a boy I didn't know. His name was Carter. Smooth suit, gold watch, the confidence of someone who's never known hunger. She saw me. Her smile faltered, and then it returned, but it wasn't mine anymore. Later that night, when I asked about him, she laughed it off. Just a family friend, but her eyes didn't meet mine. Soon after, our days started shrinking. She canceled meetings, said she was busy with family, classes, appointments. The sparkle in her texts dimmed. Her words turned into excuses. The kisses became fewer. The laughter disappeared, and I fooled that I was still waited by that tree, hoping she'd come back like she always did. She didn't, and us silence didn't come all at once. At first, it crept in like a fog, soft, barely noticeable. One missed message, one delayed reply, a moment where her hand didn't reach for mine. I told myself she was just tired, that school and family pressure were catching up to her. I told myself love didn't just vanish like smoke, but I was wrong. She still met me once or twice a week. But something in her had changed. She no longer talked about books, dreams, or running away to Paris. Our walks turned quiet. She stared at her phone more often, eyes flickering with hesitation when I spoke. The laughter that used to dance in her voice was gone. One day, I held her hand beneath the library tree, the same tree where we first met, and she didn't squeeze back. "Evelyn," I said gently, is something wrong?" She looked at me like she wanted to tell me something. Her lips parted, then closed, a shaky breath. "No, nothing's wrong," but everything was wrong. The next few days, I barely heard from her. I stood outside her house one evening, heart pounding, hands in my pockets. I stared at the manor's tall iron gates, knowing I didn't belong. Just as I was about to turn away, I saw her. She stepped out of a sleek black car with Carter beside her. They were laughing. I froze. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and chose not to. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at my ceiling and remembered every time she'd told me I was special. Every kiss, every whisper beneath the stars. Had it all been fake? Or worse, had I just been a passing moment until someone richer came along? The next morning, I found the courage to text her, "Evelyn, I need to see you. Please, just once." "No lies," she replied hours later. "Okay. Tomorrow?" The tree. 5 p.m. The entire day, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I got there early. The sky was cloudy, the wind sharp. I sat under the tree and waited, like I always did. And then, she came. She looked beautiful, she always did. Her hair tied back, wearing that soft blue scarf I once said brought out her eyes. But something in her face was different. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't anger. It was distance. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey." We stood in silence for a moment. The wind rustled the branches above us, sending dried leaves dancing to the ground. "Evelyn," I finally said, "why are you pulling away from me?" She didn't answer at first, just looked away. I'm not. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. Then why does it feel like I've already lost you? She bit her lip. Her eyes shimmered, but she blinked the tears away. I care about you. I always have. But she paused, the word hanging heavy in the air. But we're different, you and me. What do you mean? I asked, my voice hoarse. My world, the expectations, my family. They wouldn't understand us. They barely let me breathe as it is. I stepped closer. But you said they didn't matter. I thought they didn't. She said, voice breaking. But it's not that simple. And Carter? I asked, my throat burning. She looked down. I knew the answer before she spoke. He's stable. He's what they want for me. He's what I should want. And what do you want, Evelyn? She looked up at me, eyes full of pain. I don't know anymore. And just like that, the silence between us became louder than ever. We didn't kiss that day. We didn't even touch. She walked away slowly, each step stealing something from me. I stood there beneath that tree, my heart splitting open as I watched the only girl I ever loved vanish into the evening mist. And this time, she didn't look back. After Evelyn left that day, I stayed beneath the tree for hours. The sun disappeared behind the hills and the air grew colder, but I couldn't bring myself to move. I was frozen not by the weather, but by something far crueler. Heartbreak. It had a taste, bitter and metallic, like blood in your mouth after a punch. It was in every breath I took, every thought that ran wild in my head. I replayed her words again and again. We're different. He's what I should want. Not once did she say she didn't love me. But maybe that was the worst part. She hadn't denied loving me. She just didn't think it was enough. The next few days passed in a haze. I skipped work. I didn't eat much. My mother asked me what was wrong, but I just smiled and said I was tired. How do you explain to someone that your soul feels like it's been ripped out? I tried to forget her. I tried to erase her voice from my memory, her touch from my skin, her laughter from the corners of my mind. But Evelyn had settled into me like roots deep, stubborn, impossible to dig out. And then I saw her again. It was a Saturday. I had gone to the town square to run errands for my mother. I hadn't been sleeping well, and it showed unkempt hair, dull eyes, a shadow on my face. That's when I heard her laugh, that same laugh that used to make my heart dance. Only now, it wasn't mine anymore. I turned. She was across the street, standing outside a boutique with Carter. He had his arm around her waist. They looked like the cover of some magazine, perfect, shiny, untouchable. She hadn't seen me, but I saw everything. Her smile, the way she tilted her head when he whispered something, how she leaned into him, the way she once leaned into me. I shouldn't have watched, but I did, because pain has a way of turning us into our own worst enemies. And then she saw me, our eyes met, just for a second, and I saw it. A flicker of something in her gaze. Not guilt, not shame, regret. I turned away and walked off. She didn't follow me. That night, I received a message from an unknown number. I didn't want to hurt you. Please believe that. I stared at it for a long time before deleting it. No reply. Let silence answer her now. A few weeks passed. The weather shifted. The trees wore golden coats. Autumn had arrived, bringing with it cold winds and a strange sense of closure. One evening, I was at the local cafe where I sometimes helped out for extra money. It was slow, and I was wiping down the counter when a familiar voice spoke behind me. I didn't know you worked here. I turned. Evelyn stood there, wrapped in a beige coat, her hair in soft waves. She looked tired, not the usual tired from long days, but emotionally drained. I said nothing. Can we talk? She asked. I hesitated, then nodded. We sat in a corner booth, the same one we used to sit in when we shared slices of lemon pie and spoke about dreams. I know I hurt you, she said, eyes low. I looked at her. Why are you here, Evelyn? Because I need to say it. All of it. Then say it. She breathed deeply. I loved you. I still do. But I panicked. My parents found out about you, and they didn't react well. They said you were using me, that you weren't our kind, that I'd ruin my future if I stayed with you. I stared at her, and you listened. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know what else to do. They threatened to cut me off, take away my university fund. I was scared. I felt my chest tighten. So you chose money over love? No, she said quickly, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. It wasn't like that. I thought if I let go of you, maybe it would hurt less in the long run. Maybe you'd move on. Well, It didn't, I snapped. It hurt more. Silence again. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't want your apology, I said, softer now. I wanted your truth back. Then, not now. Now, it's too late. She wiped a tear and nodded. I just needed you to know. I stood up. I know now. And then I walked away, leaving her behind this time for good. You always imagine the last goodbye will be dramatic shouting in the rain, one last kiss, some grand gesture, but real heartbreak is quieter. It happens in coffee shops under dim yellow lights, with two people too tired to fight and too broken to fix what once was. After that night in the cafe, I didn't see Evelyn again, not for weeks. Autumn faded into winter. The skies turned gray. Snow fell on the rooftops of our small town, covering everything in soft silence, as if nature itself wanted to hide all the things that were lost. I tried to move on. I poured myself into work, fixed engines at the garage, helped my mother around the house, smiled at strangers like I was okay. Sometimes I even believed I was, but there were nights I'd lie awake and think about Evelyn, about the way she used to kiss my forehead when she thought I was asleep, about how she used to hum under her breath when we walked side by side, about how she once said, "You're the calm in my storm." But maybe I was only ever her shelter until the rain stopped. Then came the letter. One snowy morning, I found an envelope in the mailbox. No name on the front, just my address in neat, careful handwriting. Inside, a single folded page. There are moments I still reach for my phone to message you. And then I remember we're not us anymore. I don't know if you hate me. I think maybe you should, but I also know this, what we had was real. Even if I wasn't brave enough to fight for it, even if I got scared and ran, I'm leaving town soon, maybe forever. Carter, he's not what I thought, and I'm not who I used to be. You were my truth, even if I couldn't keep it. I'll be at the lake one last time. Sunday, sunset, if you don't come, I'll understand. But I had to try, just once more. I sat with that letter for hours, my hands trembling, heart stuck between anger and ache. Part of me screamed to ignore it, to leave her standing there the same way she left me, but another part, the one that still dreamed of her voice on a quiet night, wanted to go to see her, to say goodbye. Sunday came. The lake was half frozen, a silver mirror stretched beneath the winter sky. The trees stood bare and still, and the air bit at my skin as I walked down the familiar path. And then I saw her. Evelyn stood at the edge of the water, wrapped in a wool coat, scarf blowing in the wind. She turned when she heard my footsteps. I stopped a few paces away. "I didn't think you'd come," she said, voice barely above the breeze. "I almost didn't." She nodded. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted to see you one last time, the way we used to be." I didn't speak. I just looked at her, really looked at her. She looked tired, not physically, but inside. Her eyes were softer now, wiser and sadder. "I left Carter," she said suddenly. "I couldn't pretend anymore. He never really knew me. Not like you did." I let out a bitter laugh. "And now you want to come back?" She shook her head. "No, I don't want to come back. I just wanted to say goodbye the right way." I stood silent. "I was scared," she said. "My whole life, people told me what to be, what to want. I thought love had to come with conditions, with perfection. But you were real. You saw me, and that scared me more than anything." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm sorry I left," she whispered. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I loved you, truly." I swallowed the lump in my throat. And then I walked closer. I gently took her hand. We stood there, side by side, watching the lake reflect the dying sun. No promises, no begging, just two people acknowledging what they had and what they lost. After a while, I turned to her. "Goodbye, Evelyn." She smiled through her tears. "Goodbye." And then I let go of her hand and walked away. The hardest part wasn't saying goodbye. It was waking up the next morning and realizing the world hadn't stopped. The sky was still blue. Birds still sang. People still went to work, still laughed, still fell in love on corners. I once stood with Evelyn, but I had changed. Something inside me, some soft, naive peace had been burned away. In its place was something quieter, stronger. A version of me no longer waiting to be chosen. I didn't forget her. You don't forget your first true love. You don't forget the way their voice could soothe storms inside you. But I stopped chasing ghosts. I stopped hoping she'd appear behind me every time the wind blew just right. Instead, I worked, I rebuilt, I saved every dollar I could, fixed every car that came into the garage, took night classes in engineering. My hands, once used only to hold hers, found purpose in creation. I learned to cook for my mother. I started reading again new books, old favorites, poetry. Words stopped hurting and began to heal. Even Pride and Prejudice didn't sting as much, and slowly I made peace with the truth. She didn't leave because I wasn't enough. She left because she wasn't ready. A year passed, then two, I moved out of our small town and started work at an automotive firm in the city. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. Every design I sketched, every engine I improved, reminded me that I had built something out of heartbreak. I made new friends, even went on dates most didn't last, because part of me was still learning how to trust again, how to love without fear. One evening, I stood in my small city apartment, watching the sunset through the window. The sky was the same shade of gold as that day at the lake, and I thought of Evelyn, not with bitterness, not even with longing, but with warmth, like an old song you don't listen to anymore, but still remember every word. Then, something unexpected happened. I received a message, simple, short, from an unknown number. I heard you made it to the city. I'm proud of you. There was no name, but I didn't need one. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I had nothing left to say. Some stories don't end with second chances. Some stories end exactly where they're supposed to. She had her journey, and now I was living mine without her, but not without love, because love isn't just about holding someone. It's also about knowing when to let go. 10 years. That's how long it had been since I last saw Evelyn by the lake. Since I walked away and didn't turn back. Life, as it does, had carried me forward like a river. I was 30 now. My hands still bore the marks of my work grease-stained palms, fingers slightly bent from years of crafting, fixing, building, but my heart, it was stronger, steadier. I had built something for myself, my own small workshop in the city, a team, a name. My mother, now retired, came to visit often. She still made tea the same way and still asked me when I'd finally settled down. I never married. There were women, good ones, kind, thoughtful, but love like I'd had with Evelyn, that kind doesn't repeat itself. Not exactly. It wasn't that I waited for her. It's just that some wounds don't scar, they bloom into gardens you quietly tend for the rest of your life. One autumn, I returned to my hometown. A childhood friend was getting married. I hadn't been back in years. As I drove through the winding lanes, the memories came in waves. Streets we walked, diners we laughed in, the old cinema where Evelyn once cried during the ending of Casablanca. On impulse, after the wedding, I walked to the place where it all began, the library garden. The tree was still there, older now, like me, its bark weathered, branches thinned. Leaves golden and dry littered the ground beneath it. I stood under it in silence, and for a moment I saw us 18, barefoot in the rain, laughing, kissing, dreaming of cities and stars. And then I heard footsteps, soft, hesitant. I turned. She stood just beyond the gate. Evelyn. She looked almost the same and completely different. Her hair shorter, her eyes gentler. A small necklace hung around her neck, a tiny silver leaf. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then she smiled. I had a feeling you might come here. I smiled too. So did I. She walked over, slowly, and we stood side by side beneath the tree, just like we once did. How long has it been? She asked softly. 10 years, I replied. Almost to the day. She looked up at the branches. I used to come here every fall, just to see if maybe. She trailed off. You married? I asked gently. No, she said. You? I shook my head. For a long moment, we just stood there, watching the leaves fall. She turned to me, eyes glistening. I'm sorry. I know. I was foolish. No, I said. You were young. So was I. I never stopped wondering what we could have been. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in years, there was no ache, just gratitude. We were what we needed to be, I said. For that time. For that version of us. She nodded slowly. A pause. Then she said, do you regret it? Loving me? I smiled, warm and sure. Never. Some things hurt, but they're worth it anyway. A single leaf fell between us. We didn't touch. We didn't try to rewrite history. We just stood beneath the tree that had once held the weight of our hearts and allowed the moment to be what it was, honest, complete, and peaceful. Eventually, She stepped back. "I'm glad you're happy," she said, "and I hope you find peace," I replied. She nodded, and then she walked away. No. Tears.no turning back, just like the ending of a good book. I stayed there a while longer, letting the sun dip low, letting the wind play with my coat. Love doesn't always end the way you dream, but sometimes it ends the way it should, with respect, with memory, with two people who once held the stars, finally learning to let them go.